Good afternoon. You're listening to Love Bay Afrobeat Radio Talk program. And today we are looking at divorce after the divorce. And last week we covered, or week before last, we covered divorce and the reason many people opt to have end their marriages. However, today we want to look at what happens after the divorce. And I'm just going to do a brief recap on the divorce. And we know that there are various reasons why people decide to end their marriages. And divorce rate has been climbing tremendously because people generally are not prepared to continue in a relationship that they feel is not working. However, what we want people to know is that yes, there may be problems that arise in a relationship, but it doesn't mean that the relationship is over. Sometimes it takes a little patience, sometimes we have to try a little harder and then try to work things out. And most of all, we have to talk over the situation. If we do not talk about it, sit down and look at the situation from each perspective, yes, we will run for a divorce, but we have to just have a conversation, find out why there is a problem in the relationship, and find the best solution to resolve that problem. So there are many failed marriages, but there are some that have tried and they've made it. They've made it. Even though it's not an easy process, especially when you're dealing with two separate people. We all have our ideas of how it should work, and we all have our opinion on what we want. But when we are looking to restore a relationship, then we have to put some time in it. It requires work. Nothing comes easy, not even marriage. So when you would have made that vow and have the honeymoon and everything is over, now it's time to make your relationship work. And today, what we want to look at is what happens after a divorce. Because sometimes people, they feel that after the divorce, it's okay and we can go about our affairs and no problem. Not so. After the divorce, there are problems, there are situations that can develop, but we have to be prepared to try and make it work. And I just want to give you a brief statistic of marriages and what it looked like in the United States, the divorce rate. They said that in 1920, there was one divorce for every seven marriages. In 1940, there was one divorce for every six marriages. In 1960, there was one divorce for every four marriages. And in 1972, it was one divorce for every three marriages. In 1977, however, the figures reached nearly one out of every two marriages. So it tells me that something wrong. You see the trend. It moved down every marriage, one divorce out of every seven marriages. And it moved down to two. So it tells me people are not tolerating anything that is not working. And we looked last week at the Gen Z, the Generation Z. They especially will not um, um, tolerate anything that's not working. But marriage is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It was given by God. And even though we've had failed marriages, there are still relationships that have been restored and they're working beautifully. So I want to just encourage our listeners when it seems like there is no hope for your marriage, all it takes is a little patience. Take time, sit down and talk. And you may say, well, you can't talk to your spouse or she will not listen. And I'm not saying, all of marriages can be restored. There are some marriages that are, must end in divorce. There may be some, but we try to, as much as possible, try to make the relationship work. It's always better when we can save our relationship as opposed to throwing it away. So after persons would have gone through a divorce, sometimes they become bitter. Sometimes they become, maybe don't want to see another man or another woman. And unless they deal with their situation, because if you come out of that marriage, it simply means you didn't want to deal with the situation. So it means then that you are carrying that baggage with you. So if you come out of that marriage and did not resolve, chances are you will go into another relationship carrying that same baggage. And before you know it, you're right back at point zero again. No wife or no husband because you didn't resolve. And oftentimes you find people after the divorce, they quickly run to someone else. And that's the biggest mistake you can make.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we always encourage people, if you can make your marriage work, then you can sit down and talk about it and
Mm-hmm.
try and make it work. If
Mm-hmm.
you cannot make it work, then when you leave that person, do not run into another relationship because it's not normally easy. We are happy. We are joined by Dr. Alvin Hepburn,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we're going to just permit him a moment to share his views and to say hello.
Well, good day to all. And yes, welcome again to another powerful topic, another real life topic that we are discussing here on this platform in Relationship and Marriage Hour on After the Divorce. Wow. And I know Dr. Maria, he is stressed. Um, where we stand, and as persons who will encourage other married folk, we will say to them, listen, if you could avoid divorce with all you can do, try not to get divorced. Dr. Miles Monroe put it like this, Dr. Maria. He says that in his view, divorce is worse than death. Divorce is worse than the death of a spouse.
Wow.
And when he explained it, he said it this way. He said, because at death, you realize you go and you carry your loved one to their final resting place and you leave them there. You bring closure and you can move on.
Yeah.
However, with divorce, the splitting still happens, that separation still happens as if it was death, but you see your loved one still walking around. The
Mm,
person that you separated from, you see them still living, you see them still going on without you. And for some people, that can be a mind torturing, heart wrenching, uh, life changing situation. Be- I think for the most part, Doc, what makes it worse is you see this person that you've separated from, who was torn away from you, and you see them happy with somebody else. And that boy, well, what could that person give that I couldn't give? How come
mhm.
that is working and they didn't work with us? All of those things start to play on your mind, play on your psyche, and that's why I agree with you wholeheartedly, Dr. Maria. after a major event in your life as a divorce, you should not run to jump into another relationship because you need time to heal. And one of the things that you say here is hurting people do one thing, they hurt people. And if you are hurting, um, jumping into another relationship, more than likely, I can't say 100%, I can't guarantee it, but more than likely, that new relationship will suffer as a result of pain and trauma from the previous relationship. So we advise anyone who have gotten a divorce or is going through the process of divorce, even before you sign them papers, see how best you can rectify the situation with your loved one, with your spouse. See if there's anything that can be done to to revert that journey down the road of divorce. But if that cannot be reverted, if that's the path that has to be taken, then you as the individual need to separate yourself so you can heal. And that healing may not take a day. I think more that can take a long time to heal um, from a divorce. From my time of counseling, Doc, I have dealt with persons in their 50s, in their 60s, who are still dealing with trauma of watching their parents get divorced.
Yes.
And I've
Yes.
seen that played out in their relationship with their trust issues with their partners and how they treat the person that they get married to. Um, so, boy, divorce, that is, that is, it is not a good thing. It is not
I,
a
I,
good thing.
I really agree with that, Dr. Alvin. And I think after the divorce, that's when the greatest damage is done.
Yes.
Especially, as we've said in our previous conversation, especially if you are dealing with children in the marriage. Yes, you may be satisfied. What I want us to look at, Dr. Alvin, is the various reasons that will cause one to get divorced. If a person divorce another individual because they are not taking care of the home, they are not caring about the spouse or the family, then the after divorce is somewhat different. If it's because of infidelity, the after is different. If it's because
Hmm.
we just couldn't see eye to eye, the after is different. How then can we help those persons that are going through, especially um, with maybe the children, maybe with the after divorce, with sorry, because of the infidelity? How then
Hmm.
can we help those persons that would have gone through a divorce because of infidelity? How can we help
Hmm.
them after the divorce? Because
Wow.
remember now, they are carrying the hurt from
Hmm.
this marriage.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
who knows what trauma they may also be experiencing, especially if there was physical abuse or as well. So after a divorce, what do you think we would see, and how can we help someone that has gone through that phase in divorce, I mean relationship?
Okay. Wow, that's a loaded question, Doc. It is a poignant question. It is a wow. Divorce. Divorce. Um, Divorce hurts everyone. I want to start out with that. It hurts everyone that is connected to that union. It changes for everyone. And the sad thing is, if there's children involved, those children can be scarred for life if not proper counseling is provided for them. Um, one of the greatest pain, I think, and I can be wrong, and I stand corrected, that one can can get in a relationship is from betrayal. I
Mhm.
don't feel that anyone enters marriage saying this can over in 2 years. Everyone enters marriage for the most part with the idea that this is something that I see for a lifetime. It is a lifetime commitment. It
Right.
is a lifetime of all of me. And at the outset, we give all of what we know or who we are to the person that we love. And then for that person to turn around and betray us by leaving the marriage bed and going into another bed, that cuts really deep. Therefore, the way to deal with that takes time. Um, because of my background in Christendom, um, I would say much prayer and much counseling needs to happen. One must seek forgiveness. There must be a time of introspection as well as extrospection, where you search yourself to see where you may have been at fault so that you can correct you moving forward. I have a pastor friend, a pastor of mine in St. Louis, who used to say this, Dr. McDonald. He used to say, storms or tribulations come in our life for two reasons. They come to perfect us or they come to correct us.
I like that.
As I study, as I meditate on that, I think storms come into our lives for one reason, to perfect us. We tend to see storms and crises as problems, but we need to embrace them as opportunities. What do I mean by that? So when a problem, as we're talking about, let's say it is divorce, comes your way, and you cannot go away from it, but you have to embrace it, and you are now living as a divorcee, do not see yourself as the victim. Because if you see yourself as the person who is saying, woe is me, you will never get out of it. You will beat yourself up for the rest of your life. What you need to do, and this is Alvin Hepburn talking here, what you need to do is to examine yourself and say, how can I make this better? Or what happened here what lessons can I learn that will make me better as a person? Because we need to be better and not bitter. And that calls for tall order, Doc. That calls for us acting and living the life, because of my Christian background, of Jesus, where we have to forgive and we have to release people.
Hmm.
And yes, your loved one may have betrayed you. Yes, they may have walked out um, and had other relationships. But after divorce, you cannot beat yourself up, and I encourage you not to beat them up, but to learn from that lesson. What were the signs? God, how do I better myself so moving forward I don't come back here again. And that's my 5 cents.
I like that, Dr. Alvin, because um, that is good wisdom, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't always pan out that way because
Mm-hmm.
when one person leave another and they talk about getting divorced, going their separate ways, the first thing you would see, they are in a relationship with another person.
Oh, wow. Problems, problem.
Problem exactly. So they didn't resolve that relationship issues, but especially in the case of infidelity, they didn't resolve that, and they jump in relationship with another person just to show the guilty party, yes, I can find someone just as good or better. That is why we have so many problems because persons do it out of, you know, I can find another. But that is not the solution when there is a
No.
divorce. After the divorce, I believe, and you said it so well, Dr. Hepburn, persons need to just go through, see where they would have done wrong, where they could have made it better, or maybe if we really had to come this route, or could we have find another way to resolve it, right? But if persons do not sit down and look over the situation, not only will they hurt themselves, they will also hurt others.
Mm-hmm.
I heard just recently of this young man. He was married, I think it was 2 or 3 times.
Oh,
And
wow.
each of those relationships, he was still alone. So
Mm.
it tells me he is not getting it. He's not dealing with the issue
Mm-hmm.
because he find himself right back, deja vu, right back where he
Mm-hmm.
started in each of those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So persons need to really, sit down, see where we can fix this problem. How can we fix it? And try work it. But Doc, I think selfishness plays a big role in situations like when you have a divorce.
Yes.
After divorce,
This is one of the major reasons.
the major reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Because then, too, um, that's me putting my feeling, myself above that of my spouse
hmm
when that should not be. Um, Truth be told, if we work marriage as it should be worked, my focus should be to make sure Tanya is good. And Tanya's focus should be to make sure Alvin is good.
exactly.
And I see it played out even in our day-to-day um living, Doc.
hmm
If somebody says something to me that bothers me, I okay with it. But when my wife hear about it, oh no, you can't talk to my husband or treat my husband like that, and vice versa.
That's right.
If my wife comes to me and say, Alvin, these people say this and this about me, I'm like, show me where they are. I got my cutlass. Because y'all
Exactly.
should to mess with my wife. But
hmm
if those same people had said those things and had treated me that way, I would have said to my wife, that's okay, leave it alone.
Right. That's right.
But no, and that's how it should be, dog.
Yes.
That's what this
Yes.
covenant is. This
Yes.
covenant of marriage is that you have somebody who have your back
Mm. That's it.
every day of your life for as long as you live.
Yes.
And if you entered marriage like that, and if that is then broken because of infidelity or because of some reason that now, God forbid, you must divorce, you can't just turn off that switch.
No. No.
It's not it is not like you walk in your room and turn on the light and turn it off. No,
No.
because you didn't turn on the switch.
Exactly. It took
So you
years to
can't
get.
just turn it off.
That's right.
So to then leave that relationship and jump into a new one, oh no. You need to be healed. You
Yes.
need to be reprogrammed, for
Mm.
lack of a better word, because I have been programmed to meet the needs of Tanya.
Hmm. So you have to undo all of that.
Thank you very much. And that's 24 years of doing.
Yeah.
You don't undo 24 years in a couple of minutes or a couple of weeks.
No. No. So then, Doc, how long then you think a person should wait after divorce before going into another relationship?
There
Can
is
we put a time
no
on?
there is no time. It is okay. I am not going to put a numerical time on it, but I'll put this time stamp on it. When you are healed from the previous relationship, then you are able to go into another. And what do I mean by that? When really, wow, oh Lord, when there is no ill will against the person you divorced, when their name call and that don't send these negative feelings all through your body and make you angry, when you see them in public and don't want to chop them up or kill them, when you have forgiven them and released them, and you are not beating yourself up, but you are now at peace with who you are. You have now become whole again. Then you are ready. Until then, you will just be a broken vessel in another relationship, acting as you are whole.
I totally agree with that. Then it brings to mind this question then. Should, if if those feelings persist, then we know that person need to go and get some counseling,
Yes.
especially if they would like to move on to another relationship. Without counseling, it simply means you're taking all of that burden from the previous marriage into a new relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
that could be devastating.
Mm-hmm.
So we need persons to really sit down and look at it. And I like what you said, Doc, where you said never see yourself as the victim. But you don't see yourself as the victim. But in all honesty to yourself and to your ex spouse, sit down and see where you would have been at fault. Because if they can do this, Dr. Alvin, then the healing process takes place much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
If they can sit down and honestly within themselves say, well, I've contributed to this, I've contributed to that, maybe I could have done this differently, I could have speak to him better, or maybe if she was nice to me,
Mm-hmm.
we need to just sit down. And I believe that is why there are so many divorce rates. We saw the number from 1977. It was like every one marriage there were two divorces. You know,
Oh
uh,
wow.
yeah, the relation it went from I think 1960, and the number kept going up from 1920. Sorry, it was one divorce for every seven marriages. But by 1977, the figure was like one divorce every two marriages. That's not good. So it also tells us that people are not tolerating
Mm-hmm.
any problem.
Mm-hmm.
But the beauty of it is, I like what you said too. Your friend said that it will either perfect you or correct you.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we be perfected in our relationship if we don't have a little problem sometimes?
Mm-hmm. And that's a very powerful question. Doc, um, if you ever get in a car accident, and God forbid that ever happens, and the police comes there and takes your statement, takes the person who may have hit you, mind you, you were going about your business, and the person hit you. let's say they run the red light, so they're at fault for running the red light. For the most part, both of you will be charged.
Yes.
And that got me. I was like, hold it down. I was going about my business. This person came out of the blue and hit me.
Mm-hmm.
How could I be wrong? And they charged me for due care and attention.
And attention. That's right. That's
Yes, you didn't run the red light. Yes, that person who ran the red light is mostly in the wrong.
right.
But
Mm-hmm.
if you were paying attention of the road and seeing how cars are moving, you should have avoided him or her running into you.
Wow.
Wow.
Powerful.
I want to take
So,
that same concept and
yes.
apply it to marriage, to
Yes.
divorce. Yes, you
Mm-hmm.
may not have been the one that slipped out and commit the affair. Yes, you may not have done the so-called egregious activity, but what have you done over the years of in that relationship that may have given your partner the excuse
Mm.
to go and do what he or she did? That's
And
too
that's
what
what
you
we
have
need.
to
Mm-hmm.
examine.
Yes.
And you always say this, Doc, and everything, most of the things I hear you say when we talk about marriage and relationship, you bring it back to this very powerful word that people tend to forget:
Mm-hmm.
maturity.
Yes.
You must be mature. Marriage
No.
is not for children, it's for
Mm-hmm.
mature persons. And you could be in a 45-year-old body and still have the mentality of a child.
Yes.
So age does not mean maturity.
Not at
Because
all.
some 12-year-old are more mature than some 50-year-olds
Yes.
in their thinking. And why am I saying that? After anything happens to me, dog,
Mm-hmm.
good, bad, or ugly, I sit down and I do an introspection.
Exactly.
Alvin, what did you do
Mm-hmm. To contribute.
to contribute to this?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
then, because you got to ask yourself those hard questions. Alvin, what is in you that may have caused people to think they could treat you like that?
Mm-hmm. That's
And
right.
all of those things. And that's why I said to you that I hear what my pastor was saying, that there are two reasons for storms, but I think there's only one, and that
Right.
is to perfect you, to make you
Yes.
better. But you
Mm-hmm.
got to be willing to ask yourself the tough questions so that you can better who you are.
Yes. Yes.
And then, two, look at your life. Yes, your husband, let's call a name. Your husband Michael walked out on you, and he cheated on you. But when you start to do introspection, you realize, boy, but when was in a relationship with John, John did the same thing. Me and John never got married though. Charlie did the same thing. Henry do the same thing. Well, hold it now. How come every person is doing this to you?
Mm.
So how come you are attracting what is in you that is attracting these type men that is causing them to step out on you? You
Yes.
have to do that introspection to better who you are so that the cycle don't continue. Because if Sally walked out on me, Henrietta treats me bad,
Mm-hmm.
I on my fourth marriage and the same thing happening, the only common denominator in all of those things is me.
Mm.
And until Alvin do what Alvin needs to do to better Alvin, it doesn't care who the next body is that is attracted to me, I'm going to walk down that path again. And this is
Exactly.
why we say you must go through counseling and you must examine who you are and be healed so that the cycle does not repeat itself.
That's right. That's wise information right there. Wisdom, and I trust that our audience, they are listening, and I wish to throw out to our audience, should you have a question, we would like for you to ask the question and let us see if we can help. Because, if we do not stop long enough and go over the process, we are going to repeat ourselves. And
Yes.
the repeat is not good, because
Mhm.
you, after that divorce, you end up in another relationship and you find yourself going down the same path. Something is wrong. So then you need to find out, go get some counseling, find out where it is you are at fault, and try to fix it. It doesn't make sense you blaming yourself, putting all this pressure on yourself, when all you need to do, it could
Pity
be one,
party.
yeah, and it can be one simple problem. You go, and it probably, the way you speak to that person, they feel that you don't care. It could be something as simple as that. So we have to find out where the problem is. It makes no sense to just move to the next. And I
Mhm.
wish to pause here and say that you're listening to Love Beat Afro Music Radio Talk Show. And we are happy. We're talking about after the divorce. And that's the part that we want you to understand, that sometimes you can get a good relationship after the
Mhm.
divorce.
Mhm.
Whereas the first person may not have appreciated you, didn't treat you with any respect. This has nothing to do with infidelity now, because you have different reason for divorce. Didn't treat you with respect, just use you as a furniture in the house. So divorce was the option out. And you may find someone else who treats you like a queen, love you after that divorce, and you are loving life. We would like for someone to just reach out to us and share your experience. You've come out of one marriage and now you're living a beautiful life in another marriage. But it didn't just happen like that. You had to go through a process. And that process was checking out yourself to see
Mhm.
where you may have faltered in that first relationship.
Mhm.
So after the marriage, Dr.
Mhm.
Alvin, your thought.
Yes, because there are many people, Doc, who um, after one divorce, they remarry and they live together 30, 40, 50, 60 years until death.
Yes.
Um, so we don't want to discourage persons so that they think that once I've divorced, that there's no more love out there for me. I'm hopeless and I got to be alone by myself. We are not saying that. What we are saying, however, is you don't want to repeat the tearing of your soul. Because whenever you marry and you're born to that one individual, divorce, the only way what divorce actually means, it is a tearing away
Hmm.
of two souls that have become one.
That's
And
right.
that's a painful experience. It is basically like we talked about earlier, like Dr. Miles Monroe puts it, it is like experiencing a death of a loved one, and having that experience actually he says is worse than
Yes.
experience the experiencing the death of a loved one. um so we don't want anyone to go down that road, but we encourage everyone, if that has happened to you, before you get into another relationship, now is the time for you to be selfish. When you're by yourself again, focus on you, making you better, perfecting you, that you can be the best version of you out there.
Yes.
Be, because that's what needs to happen. So what am I saying? Don't see divorce as a crisis. See it as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to explore more of who you are, to get to know who you are. Because once you know who you are, then you know which person you should choose
Yes.
to
Yes.
be with you. And then you break that cycle of an abusive relationship, of a what we would call a sweetheart relationship. You break those cycles of an abuse, all of those things that lead people to divorce. You can break those cycles.
Hmm.
And so we encourage you to seek help. Going in a place and having a pity party and going in those dark places, that's not going to help you. That's only going to hurt you further. What you need to do is to seek help, pray, trust God, and watch Him heal you and better you in the process.
Doc, there are some persons, they would have gone through divorce. And because of their belief, they prefer to remain unmarried. And that's fine.
Uh-huh.
That is fine. But if that individual wants to remain single, there's nothing against that. But then, do you think then it's fair for that person to continue having a sneak relationship with the spouse after they are divorced?
A what type relationship?
Uh, they divorce from one spouse, and one of the
Mm-hmm.
party remains unmarried.
Mm-hmm.
Should there continue to be a relationship going on? How do you think they should deal with that? Because you divorced me now, but yet you want to still come back and have a relationship.
When you say have a relationship, do you mean friendship?
No, friendship is fine, but I have a
Mhm.
close, intimate relationship.
Oh, they divorce me and still want to come back and have sex? Oh no.
Yeah,
No, no. See, because understand, oh Lord. Let's oh Doc, why
that's
you
the
want me
reality. That's the
why you
reality,
want
Doc.
us why you
After
want
the
us open
after the
that can of
divorce,
worm? Why you want us
after
open that
divorce.
can of worm? Oh, help us, Jesus. Listen. I have to go back to my biblical foundation and understanding here. Um, One of the things that make a husband and a wife be joined together as one is through intimate relationship.
Yes,
That's the joining of the soul and the spirit.
yes,
That's the joining also of the body. I tell people, one of these days I'm going to write a sexual healing book. I tell people, Doc, that the sexual act is more spiritual than it is physical.
yes.
If you want to put a number on it, I would say it is more 70, and this is on the lower end. I some days I'll tell you it's 85, 90, but
Yeah,
but but for our conversation to today, it is on average 70% spiritual, 30% physical.
that's right.
What makes a divorce hurt
Hmm.
is not really the physical separation, it is more so that spiritual connection being torn and severed.
Yes, yes,
So if I if if that tearing happens and now you want to come back and be intimate with me, my spirit is going to try to reconnect.
yes,
And then we will reconnect on that spirit level again. But if we're still divorced, when you leave, there is another tearing. So that's like going through that pain over and over and over again. I will advise anyone who has engaged in divorce and your spouse or your partner, your ex-partner saying, we'll never get married again, I don't want that, I will encourage you not to engage in intimate relations,
Yes. Yes.
because that complicates and compounds the pain. Because now you can start asking those questions. Why do you not want to be married to me, but you want the benefits of me?
Mm-hmm.
And boy, yeah, I would not advise anyone to be in an intimate relationship with someone that you are divorced to, and there is no chance of reconciliation of that relationship.
Well said, Doc. Very well said. Because sometimes people may feel they have that obligation. I have to do this, or I can go back to this
No.
because we are divorced. But wrong mistake. And I love the way you answered that. Wrong, a big mistake, I should say.
Yeah.
Because after you would have walked out and he left his way, you go your way, the process should be then for that person is love themselves, learn more about themselves, and maybe look at what you're looking for in a man or woman again. Revisit and revisit yourself.
Mhm.
Going into another relationship is a big mistake sometimes.
Mhm.
Maybe you can find a relationship that maybe bloom out of another relationship, out of a hurt, and a, you know,
Few and far in between.
yes, very much so. So the best thing is then to just regroup, just love yourself, spend time with yourself, go on a date with yourself, and find out all about yourself and see,
Mhm.
especially once you would have identified what is your fault, then you begin to treat yourself better. Because doc, a lot of times people are acting out in relationship because of past hurt, because of
Yes.
trauma. So
Mhm.
many things could have gone wrong, perhaps not even in their life per se, but in the
Mhm.
home, in the family, it's what they would have
Mhm.
seen. So they're
Mhm.
walking around with all this hurt, trauma, and
Mhm.
therefore the only thing they can do is to hurt somebody else.
Yes. 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 And some of them, there's some things too, like even in talking with Tanya, my wife, there is, and we talked about this earlier, Doc. Not today, but previous previous conversations. We talk about where two persons come from different cultures. My
Yes,
culture different from my wife's culture,
yes,
but we come together now and we trying to build our culture. We trying to make our culture so we can make it work to grow our children up in this culture that we put together and build.
that's right.
And this is why too communication is so much key, because there are things that I do that I don't even think about
Yes,
until my wife points it out to me. Like too. I come from a culture where my mommy and daddy was in the house. When when daddy and mommy went to the food store and they pull up um to the house, the boys got up when we heard the car, went out to the car and brought the groceries on the inside.
yes,
Helped my mommy pack them away. She told me what is to go where, what is to go the other way. My wife, however, her background, she grew up with her mother. When the grocery come, they pick it up and carry it inside. They put it away.
hmm,
I've been married to this woman for 19 years, and I'm still trying to get my wife that when she comes home and I home, let me get the grocery, please. Different culture.
different
And she
culture.
looks at me now and she says, "Oh man, I am so sorry. That's the way I was brought up." Because there was no man there to bring it on the inside. We had to bring it on the inside. Well,
Yes.
why did I say that? That's why we have to do the introspection, Doc, because sometimes we do things because of the culture we came from, and
Mm-hmm.
that may be offensive to the other person. Because I used to get mad with my wife. I say, so what I here for if you can bring in the grocery?
Right.
What I here for if you can do all of these things?
That's it.
So all of that plays a role. All of that plays where you sit down and do the introspection. What what did I contribute that may have caused this to happen?
Yes.
And mind you, your contributions may not have been negative in your eye,
Mm-hmm.
but in the eyes of your spouse,
Yes.
it appeared to be negative, and they may not have verbalized it when it should have been verbalized. They hold it all in until now it just blow up and they say, I
Yeah.
can't be with you no more. We got to get a divorce.
Yes. Yes.
Doc, I have counsel persons who have been to this point. I have counsel persons who have also experienced infidelity in the relationship. You know what
Mm-hmm.
my number one advice to them is? I always say this. I say, if I was you two, I would separate for a period.
Yes.
Why I endorse that is based on what you just said. That was just so powerful.
Right.
Get to find out who you are.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's it.
Step back. When you separate, you step back from the situation and
And
reevaluate who you are, who your spouse is, and what is the
that's
situation you're dealing with. And then with a clear head, you two come back together and either fix it or do what you have to do. It is
that's
best, dog. It is best if there is a forest fire. The first thing we should do is not run in with our hoses and start out in the fire.
no.
The first thing we should do is to step back and look holistically. How is this fire moving?
That's right.
And what
Mm-hmm.
we need to stop it, to contain it.
Yes.
And once the fire is contained, then we could go in to the forest and start out and out individual places. But we don't want damage to get any place else, so we make sure secure those areas by
That's
containing
right.
it and then dealing with it. That's how our bodies work with viruses and stuff that comes in it. It
That's right.
finds out it was, it sends the mucus there to contain it,
That's
and
right.
then find avenues to dispel it.
To dispel it. And that's the same thing with the relationship, you know.
Yes.
So
Powerful
that
stuff.
is so good. Very powerful stuff. And it proved then that divorce is um, that presence in our society, in our home. It is there. The reality of it, it is there. Our aim on this program is to help people to work through it. Not
Yes.
all relationship must end in divorce. All it takes sometimes is a little patience.
Mhm.
And I like what you said. If it means you go your way for a while, separate for a while until we can really look at this from our different angles and
Mhm.
then make it work. In those cases where you cannot, because it's that bad, or the person is maybe that much of a problem, then you have to, you can seek counseling. I always suggest counseling, but then you may then have to make choices. But don't let it be you making choices because um, you can't deal with this person and you don't have the patience. When in most instances, traditional marriage vows are being used, and we say
Mhm.
we married for better or for worse. Now there are
Yes.
some persons who change that vow to say what they wanted to say, but generally we go into marriage and our intent is to make it work for life. But some it's so sad, doc. Sometimes people make it 1 year and they find out that it's over. But after the divorce,
Yeah.
what we would like persons to know is that life can begin again. but
Yes, yeah.
cannot rush into it. You cannot rush into it, and you must sit down and see what took place in the first one,
Mhm,
and then you wouldn't have a repeat performance of what didn't work the first time. Dr.
mhm.
Alvin, we are in our last segment, the last portion of our show, and tell us what you would like to say to our listening audience.
Okay. Let me try and wrap it up like this. The reason why, Doc, we are so um, forward now in our medical profession is that after people would have died, they used to perform a long time ago, and they still do it now, what they call an autopsy.
Yes,
So they will cut open that person and look and see what may have caused this person to have died.
yes,
Based on that information, that data, that is then used and is collected amongst many other datas so that they can say, okay, maybe in the medical field, if we could do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we might could stop the other persons from coming this
good.
route.
That's good.
I say
That's
that to say this: if you have experienced divorce, which is the tearing of soul, the separation, it is a form of death. Before you move on, there must be an autopsy that must be done, where
mhm,
you open up yourself and you try to find out what may have led to this, what
mhm.
may have caused this, so that I can now get the medicine so moving forward, this don't happen again.
Very good.
My
Very good.
first encouragement to anyone is if you are in a relationship, try to make it work. Death of a divorce by divorce is worse than death itself. What I'm saying to you is don't try to get divorced. Don't see that as the easy way out. That should be the last resort. However, if that happens in your life, before you move on, you need time with you. You need time to heal. You need time to find out who you are so that you can better yourself, so that you can be the best version of you to you first, and then to anybody else that comes your way.
Yes.
And I encourage you to take that step, do an autopsy, examine yourself before you move on.
I like that, Doc. I like that. Do an autopsy. And I just want to say to the young man, the young woman that would have ended a relationship in divorce, life is beautiful. Marriage is beautiful. And you can go on and make your life even better. So just take your time, like he said, do an autopsy and start that relationship after you would have examined yourself and find out what is the real cause that caused that death for that first relationship, and then continue to move on. And one thing I'm going to grab on that was said by Doc earlier is never see yourself as the victim. Don't see yourself as the victim. It didn't work, and you don't need to beat up yourself. Maybe had I done this, yes, maybe if you had done it, perhaps, but it doesn't help you at this point. You know, the divorce is final. Now you move on with your life. So after the divorce, you pick up yourself and you move forward. Maybe you didn't want it to end in divorce, but it did. So now what you have to do is just do a recheck and move forward. Maybe that person might have been at fault. You don't have to continue to hold on to that, but you can make life better. The thing in life I like, Doc, is that everything comes our way and it's only for a season.
Yes.
You know, we hear the old folks would say people will talk for 9 days After that, they forget your story and they go on to somebody else's.
Mhm.
So stop beating up yourself because it didn't work out and it ended in divorce. Start all over again and live your best life after.
Mhm.
So
Good stuff.
that's we're happy that we were able to spend this time with you, and we pray that you can send us some questions. Let us know if this marriage hour is helping you in your relationship. So, Doc, we say to our audience, until
Till
next
next
week,
time. Mhm.
yes.
Yep.